Thank you for taking the time to learn more about InstyMeds. This is the InstyMeds dispenser. This is the part of our system that will be in your healthcare facility. This will be the access point for patients. This is the storage location for your medications. And the way that a patient gains access to it is through your providers. The providers can utilize several methods to get the prescription to InstyMeds. They can use our WebRx prescribing tool, web-enabled, comes with the system. They can utilize SureScripts through your current EMR, or you can work with a direct interface through your EMR. Several reasons for each that might be of different benefits to different locations, and that's what our IT team can help you make a decision on. And that's what we're here for throughout the implementation process. When that has been put into place, the provider working with the patient chooses the medications that are in InstyMeds, prescribes them for the patient. The prescription is then created for InstyMeds, and what is then created for the patient is a voucher which has a 7-digit code which is good just for that prescription for the next 24 hours. Also created at the same time is the drug education. These are printed at a printer set up during the implementation process that is near where that prescriber would be. We set up the IP address based upon where the prescribers are working. They get the information. They can give this to the patient. That is the counseling, making sure that the patient has any questions that are answered at that point in time. Once this is given to your patient, once they have that voucher, they have the drug education, the provider is done. They go on and work with the next case. We are here to take care of everything at that point. The patient comes to the dispenser. There is a phone if they have any questions, direct dial the InstyMeds. There's the screen that they'll interface with. There is a slot for credit card, debit card, HSA card, whether it's full payment, partial payment. This is where the receipt comes out. And when all the items are prepared, whether there's one or multiple, they're then released to this location right here for the patient. What we're going to do is do a dispense for a single item from a patient's perspective and see what it looks like. We'll then do a second dispense where we'll actually open the door so we can see what happens inside the dispenser. So had the patient been with the provider and received their voucher, they can come directly to the dispenser, press Get My Medications. They'll enter the 7-digit code that's on the voucher. They'll validate it with their birth date. At no time is any PHI going to be shown on the screen. It tells me on this demonstration item that there's no cost. Had there been a full cost or a copayment, I could pay for it at this time. And would I like a receipt? I'm going to say yes. And this is exactly what the patient would see. It is now locating the item. These are prepackaged medications per your specifications. Every client is a little bit different. The types of medications, we feature acute items, quantities, strengths. You might have replication of fast movers. You might have different quantities and strengths. We have a number of OTC items that are available as well. As this is progressing, the status bar will continue. It is finding the item. It is doing a triple barcode check on it. It's checking the bottle for integrity or the package if it's in an overpack. It will then apply the label per the Board of Pharmacy specifications of the state that you're in. So even if you have a location with centers perhaps in different states, if you had one in one state, it would have that particular label, and if it was across the state line, it would follow that Board of Pharmacy specifications. Now, I can tell by where the status is right now, it's actually applying the label to the container. Once that's done, it will check it again, validate that everything is correct. When it's happy with it, it's then going to release it to the bin. Now, if there were multiple items for that patient, they'd all be held in a suspense area up here and dispensed at one time. But right now, with just the one item, it says 100% complete. It's going to come over and release the item. And it's about to become available to us. And there it is. So that is a basic dispense. The item is now labeled, again, for that specific patient, per the Board of Pharmacy specifications. I, as the patient, have my medications. I have my receipt. I'm done. I'm on my way. If at any point in that process the patient had a question, just pick up the phone. It's direct dial to InstyMeds. We're here for anything. If they have a question about how to use the dispenser, if they have a question about insurance, we're here to help. One of the things that we are very proud of is that the facilities that we partner with, they're there to take care of the health care. We're here to take care of the medication. So continue with your patients. Let us take care of the rest. Now, that was a basic dispense. Let's do one where we actually open the door and we can see what happens on the inside. So I have another voucher. Again, this is the 7-digit code given to me by the provider. I'm going to go to Get My Medications. I'm going to enter the code. Hit Next. I'm going to validate it with my birth date. And there's no cost in this example as well. I would like a receipt, but I'm going to open the door. And again, this isn't something you would do, but just so we can see what happens on the inside. So now we can see what makes the dispenser work. This is the gantry, the main working component. It has gone to the location of that item, actually dropped one into this holding area. It is bringing it back to the product rotator. It will then spin it, do additional barcode checks on the item, and that's where it is right now. It's already done a couple of checks. It's going to continue. And when it has validated that item, it will then create that label we saw previously and then put it on this container. If at any point there was anything wrong, if that barcode was smudged, if it wasn't aligned correctly, it would reject that item and go back and get another one. Now, it's getting ready to create the label. The sound in the background is a vacuum roller. That's grabbing the label, and it will then apply it to the bottle. And we can do bottles or boxes. Some of the items we put in overpacks. Once it has put the label on, it will then also double check it to make sure everything looks correct. And it's done that. It's bringing it over to that holding area that we saw earlier. If there are multiple items, they're stored in here, dispensed at one time. And what I'm going to do is once it's in this location, I'm going to pick it out, only because with the door open, it does not have the chute to grab it. And then we can talk a little bit about the inside of the dispenser. And this is the point for the patient where if the door was closed, which it would be in an operational situation, it would have dumped from here into the door, and the patient could get their receipt and be on their way. The gantry is going to go back into a parked position. And let's talk a little bit about the inside. The standard dispenser has 102 locations. You'll see that some are considered a short location, some are tall locations. This is configurable based upon your needs. Each location is a sleeve of 10 to 11 items. And let's take a look at what a sleeve is. So same item, quantity and strength. This is how we ship items to your facility. It will come with a Velcro strap around it to hold the items in, and we're auto shipping to you. So when we set up your formulary as part of the implementation, we know the items you want. We'll track your utilization. So it might be that you have some fast movers. We'll start shipping you some additional inventory. Maybe something isn't moving as quickly as planned. We'll ship less. But you do not have to reorder from InstyMeds. We will track your utilization on every dispense and then try to do our best to ship it to you just in time. I'm going to put this sleeve back in. We'll talk a little bit about the different states of inventory and then how do you actually restock it. So everything right here will be considered ready for dispensing. You also have items that are called in transit and other items that are on stock as overstock. You have the ability with InstyMeds to go in through what's called web screens and see a number of reports. You can see the items that are ready to dispense. You can see overstock, and there's room for overstock, your additional items, on the top and on the sides. And if you're a high volume facility, a lot of places will have a lock cabinet. If you're hospital based, most often the pharmacy will lock up the overstock in their pharmacy. And then you can also see the items that are in transit. Through web screens, there's any number of reports. You can see provider utilization, medication utilization. If it is a matter of a medication with a recall or some issue with a outdate, outdates are automatically locked out. You don't have to worry about dispensing those items. If there's a recall, we lock the medication out centrally. Our pharmacy team is watching that constantly. When it comes to outdates, let me talk a little bit more about that. The account management team works with our clients every 90 days to do a deep dive, take a look at provider utilization. Do we need to add some providers? Is there a training opportunity? We also take a look at your inventory. Are there items that are not moving? Do you want to keep them or do you want to send them back for a credit and look at another item instead? Mentioned earlier that we talk about acute medications. We also have a number of items that we can take a look at. We like to hear from our clients on anything that would help their patient population. In recent years, there have been more and more requests for acutes, as well as chronics, and certainly over-the-counter items. In the over-the-counter item area, there's some other ways you can get the medications besides what we've seen. We're going to talk about that. With the over-the-counter, we even have items such as bandages, wound dressings, ointments, thermometers, what's going to help your patients. To access over-the-counter items, you've got some options. You don't have to do these. They're available just as part of the system. We talked earlier about the 7-digit code on a voucher, and that was good just for a patient, just for that prescription. With the OTCs, if you want to, you have 3 ways to offer them. You can have them in the system, so when the patient typed in their 7-digit voucher code and was receiving their medication, OTCs could be displayed on the screen, and they could add them to their order and then pay for them at the end of the process. So if you're receiving amoxicillin, azithromycin, and perhaps you might like to have something for a sore throat or for fever, those items could come up. What would make it a nice, complete experience for your patients? That's the first way you can offer them. Second way is with a non-expiring voucher. And this is an idea that came up from a lot of our urgent care clients. Patients would come in, perhaps they had a virus, and a regular prescription wasn't appropriate. But there are things that could give them a nice experience and help them feel better. So we can set up a 5-digit code that does not expire for your facility. And in this example, we have a voucher, if you will, pre-printed with a 5-digit code. And these can be available pre-printed by the provider so they can pick it up as a checkoff list. So if a patient does not need a traditional prescription, here's something for fever, here's something for a runny nose, something to help you feel better. Check the items, hand it to the patient. They can go and essentially shop at the dispenser, type in the 5-digit code, only getting access to the OTC items, and then choose their items and pay for them at the dispenser. Allergy items have become very popular. A number of things work well with that. Another option, we have some facilities in very remote areas where there just is not pharmacy access or really much access to retail at all in the community that they're serving. And they will then use signage like this. And this is all created by our marketing department to help our clients serve their populations. So this particular facility has hours on the evenings and all weekend where there just isn't anything else in town. So they've advertised to their community that people can come in, use this 5-digit code, and they have access to some basic remedies to feel better. It's an extension of their practice. While people are there, if they realize that they do need to see a provider, certainly that's an option, but it's a nice way to extend your footprint into the community. Let's go back into the dispenser and talk about one of my favorite items, and one of the ones that a lot of people always have concern about from maintaining a system: restocking it. How do I know what do I need to restock? How do I restock it safely? Every time you dispense, we're tracking that. We're communicating with the dispenser. We're decrementing the inventory. We're not only looking at restock points, we're looking at velocity, how fast you got to that restock point, and that's how we're deciding what inventory to ship. We have automatic restocking reports, and those are the most popular. You do not have to have a farm tech to restock it due to the safety features that you can't restock it incorrectly. The restocker might get a report a day, 2 reports a day, or maybe 1 every couple of days, depending upon your utilization of the system. The restock report will tell the restocker the sleeve number that's in your overstock, on site in your overstock area, that needs to be taken and put in the dispenser. So in this case, this happens to be 390559. So I would go to the overstock area, take the sleeve, if it was here, or if this was a pharmacy overlooking it, then I would go to the locked up area in the pharmacy, get the sleeves, come to the dispenser, and this is probably one of the most critical parts of InstyMeds for ease of living with the system. I would pull out an empty magazine. Does not matter what was in that medication sleeve. It doesn't matter if that was amoxicillin and now I'm putting in Tylenol. You cannot stock it wrong. So you pull out an empty, regardless of what was in it. You take the new sleeve, you put it in, you close the door, and at the end of the restock process, the gantry is going to recalibrate the contents of the dispenser, and it will then know that specific medication is now loaded and in what location. It does not matter where the med goes, you cannot fill it wrong. Similarly, if you had a couple of bottles left of a certain medication, you're not going to pull them and put them into the same sleeve. You leave them alone. The system will dispense the oldest inventory first and then go to the next. So restocking is simply a matter of empty sleeve out, new sleeve out, shut the door. That's all there is to it. We've tried to make it as easy as possible. We know that you're there to take care of your patients. We just want to be there to complete the process and make sure your patients have medications safely and as easily as possible. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to call us. We view this as a learning journey about InstyMeds. There's a lot of facets to what we can do and how we can help. So please do not hesitate to call and let us know how we can help your facility. Thanks very much.